I was nothing to you. Now nothing owes you anything.
I never liked birthday parties, especially when I'm the clown. The chandeliers at Romano's cast golden light across crystal glasses and designer dresses, but all I could see was the cruel smile spreading across my wife's perfect face. Savannah Callahan had orchestrated this evening like a military campaign, and I was about to discover I was the enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, Savannah stood, her champagne flute catching the light like a tool. I'd like to make a toast on my 30th birthday. 15 faces turned toward our table, her college friends, work colleagues, and social climbing acquaintances who treated me like furniture. I should have seen it coming when she insisted I wear my only decent suit, the one that hung loose on my lanky frame and made my weathered face look even more out of place among these polished people. To my husband, Ethan, she continued, her voice carrying that sweet venom I'd grown to recognize. A man who's taught me that love truly is blind. Nervous laughter rippled around the table. I felt my stomach drop. Seriously, though, Savannah's green eyes glittered with malice. Look at him. Really look. I mean, what was I thinking? Dating a charity case like this? The laughter died. Even her cruelest friends seemed uncomfortable. But Savannah wasn't finished. Ethan works at some grimy factory, drives a truck older than our marriage. And honestly, she paused for dramatic effect. A man like you should be grateful I even dated you, let alone married you. The silence was deafening. Waiters pretended to be busy. Other diners stared. I felt every imperfection on my face. The crooked nose from a childhood break, the acne scars, the premature lines from working double shifts. Happy birthday, Savannah, I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. Her friend Gemma, a sharp-faced influencer with dead eyes, leaned forward. Oh my God, Savannah, you're terrible. But honestly, Ethan, she's not wrong. You two are like Beauty and the Beast, except the Beast never transforms. More laughter. Harper, another friend, had her phone out, probably live streaming my humiliation to her followers. That's when I noticed him, Chase Larkin, sitting 3 tables away, watching with obvious amusement. Trust fund pretty boy with perfect teeth and perfectly styled hair. The way Savannah kept glancing at him, the way he smirked at her performance, suddenly everything clicked. The bill, Savannah announced, sliding the leather folder toward me. $3,000. Don't worry, honey, I know you'll figure out how to pay for it. Maybe sell that pathetic truck? I looked at the check, then at the faces around the table. These people had eaten $100 steaks while watching my wife destroy me for entertainment. Chase raised his wine glass in a mock salute from across the room. Of course, I said, pulling out my credit card, the one I'd been saving for emergencies. Anything for you, sweetheart. As I signed the receipt, Savannah leaned close enough that only I could hear. I want a divorce, Ethan. And I want everything. The house, the savings, whatever pathetic inheritance you might get from your dead parents. You're nothing, and you always will be. I stood up slowly, every eye in the restaurant on me. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Something cold and calculating had settled in my chest. Enjoy your party, I said to the table. Then, looking directly at Chase, I added, all of you. The walk to my truck felt like a mile. Behind me, I could hear the party resuming, Savannah's laughter rising above the rest. As I climbed into my beat-up Ford, Chase appeared beside the driver's window. Hey, ugly, he said, then spat on my hood. Thanks for the show. I started the engine and looked at him through the windshield. You're welcome. I drove home to our small house on Maple Street, the one Savannah constantly complained about. Too small, too old, too embarrassing for someone of her colt. I sat in the driveway for 20 minutes, listening to the engine tick as it cooled, thinking about the look in her eyes when she'd called me nothing. Let her have her moment, I thought. Let them all have their laughs. My phone buzzed, a text from Savannah. Don't wait up, celebrating with real friends tonight. I went inside, poured myself a whiskey, and sat in my recliner. The house felt different somehow, not empty, but free. Like a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had suddenly lifted. I fell asleep in the chair, dreaming about factory machinery and golden chandeliers and the sound of spitting on metal. The phone woke me at 6 a.m. Then it rang again, and again. By 7, I had 139 missed calls. The name on my phone screen made my heart stop. Morrison, Klein and Associates, the law firm that had been handling my Uncle Frank's estate for the past 8 months. Mr. Callahan? The voice was crisp, professional. This is Margaret Morrison. I apologize for calling so early, but we've been trying to reach you. There's been a development in your uncle's estate that requires immediate attention. Uncle Frank. My father's brother, the black sheep who disappeared when I was 12. The family had written him off as a drunken failure, but he'd sent me birthday cards every year until I turned 18. I hadn't heard from him since. What kind of development? I asked, still groggy. Mr. Callahan, I think it's best if you come in today. Are you available at 10? 3 hours later, I sat in a mahogany-paneled conference room staring at documents that didn't make sense. Margaret Morrison, a silver-haired woman in an expensive suit, slid another folder across the table. Your uncle Franklin Callahan died 6 months ago in Denver, she said. He'd been quite successful in commercial real estate. The estate has been in probate, but all the paperwork is finally complete. I nodded, wondering why this mattered. Frank had never married, never had kids, but I'd assumed whatever he'd left would go to charity or the state. Mr. Callahan, you are the sole beneficiary of your uncle's estate. She paused, watching my reaction. The liquid assets total $25.7 million. The room spun. I'm sorry, what? $25,700,000, plus controlling interest in Callahan Industrial Solutions. Callahan Industrial? The factory where you work, Mr. Callahan. Your uncle bought it 12 years ago. You now own 68% of the company. I stared at her. The factory. The place where I'd worked double shifts for 8 years, where the foreman Mick treated me like family, where I'd learned every machine and process. Frank had owned it the whole time. There's more, Morrison continued. Your uncle left specific instructions. He'd been monitoring your life, Mr. Callahan. He was impressed with your work ethic and character. He wanted to ensure you had the resources to handle life's challenges, as he put it. My phone buzzed. A text from Savannah. Where are you? We need to talk about the divorce. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked at the message, then at the lawyers, then at the documents that made me worth more than everyone at that restaurant combined. Mrs. Morrison, I said slowly, I need to ask you about something. Hypothetically, if someone were to file for divorce from me today, what would they be entitled to? She smiled. Well, Mr. Callahan, any assets acquired during marriage would typically be split. However, inheritance is generally considered separate property, especially when received after separation. And given that you and your wife have been living on your factory wages, she consulted another document. She'd be entitled to half of your current marital assets, which, according to our research, amounts to approximately $18,000 in savings and your house, valued at $85,000. And if she doesn't know about the inheritance, Morrison's smile widened. What she doesn't know can't be claimed. Though I should mention, your uncle also left instructions for what he called protective measures, should anyone attempt to take advantage of you. 2 hours later, I walked out of that office with a new bank account, new credit cards, and a new understanding of my life. I also had Marla Chen's business card, Morrison's partner, who specialized in aggressive divorce defense. My truck felt different as I drove toward the factory. Everything looked the same, and the same potholed streets, the same rundown buildings, but I was seeing it all through different eyes. The factory parking lot was busy with the afternoon shift change. I'd called in sick, something I'd done maybe 3 times in 8 years. As I pulled up to the main office, I saw Mick walking toward his car. Ethan, he waved, his weathered face creasing into a grin. Feeling better? Heard you had some kind of family emergency. Mick Torino was 55, built like a brick wall, and had run the factory floor for 15 years. He'd taken me under his wing when I started, taught me everything about manufacturing, and never once treated me like I was beneath him. Mick, can we talk privately? 20 minutes later, we sat in his office, and Mick stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're telling me you own this place now? Apparently. He leaned back in his chair, processing. Frank Callahan was your uncle? That son of a witch never mentioned it. Though, now that I think about it, he always asked about you specifically. How you were doing, if you were happy, if anyone was treating you right. He was watching out for me. Absolutely he was. You know what he told me once? He said the measure of a man isn't what he looks like or how much money he starts with. It's how he treats people when he thinks nobody's looking. Mick grinned. Guess he was looking. My phone rang. Savannah. Don't answer it, Mick advised. Whatever storm's coming, you want to be ready. But I answered anyway. Hello, Savannah. Ethan, where the heck are you? I've been calling all day. Look, about last night, maybe I was a little harsh. Why don't you come home and we'll talk? A little harsh, like publicly destroying someone's dignity was just a minor social faux pas. I'm at work, I said. Oh no. Of course you are. Listen, I've been thinking, maybe we don't need to rush into anything drastic. Marriage is about working through problems, right? Through the office window, I could see the factory floor, the machines Frank had bought, the workers he'd employed, the business he'd built and left to me, all of it mine now. What changed your mind? I asked. I realized how much you mean to me, how much we mean to each other. Come home tonight and we'll figure this out together. Mick was making exaggerated vomiting gestures. Despite everything, I almost smiled. I'll be home later, I said and hung up. She knows, Mick said immediately. How could she? The lawyers just finished the paperwork today. Trust me, kid. Women like that have radar for money. Someone told her something or she figured it out. Either way, she's coming back for round 2. He was right, of course, but this time I'd be ready. As I drove home, I thought about Uncle Frank, the man my family had dismissed as a failure, who'd built an empire and watched over me from a distance. He'd given me more than money. He'd given me the power to choose my own ending. My phone buzzed with another text from Savannah. Can't wait to see you tonight, honey. We have so much to discuss. I smiled for the first time in months. The house smelled like expensive perfume and takeout from Romano's when I walked in. Savannah had set the dining room table with our wedding china, lit candles, and was wearing the black dress she knew I liked, the same dress she'd worn on our first anniversary, before she'd decided I wasn't worth the effort. There's my hard-working husband, she purred, gliding toward me with a wine glass. I ordered your favorite, chicken parmesan from Tony's. I accepted the glass, but didn't drink. This is quite a change from last night. About that, and she looked appropriately ashamed. I had too much champagne. You know how I get. Those friends of mine, they bring out the worst in me sometimes. The worst in you. Exactly. I said some terrible things, and I'm sorry, really, truly sorry. She moved closer, her hand touching my arm. We're a team, Ethan. We always have been. I looked around the dining room. The room she'd redecorated twice because it wasn't sophisticated enough. The room where she'd told her mother I had no taste and no ambition. Now she was looking at me like I was the most important person in her world. What made you realize we're a team, I asked. She hesitated for just a moment. I woke up this morning and you weren't there. The house felt so empty. I realized how much I'd miss you if you were really gone. Is that all? What do you mean? I set down the wine glass. I mean, did anything else happen today that might have influenced this change of heart? Her smile flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. Gemma didn't call you? Harper didn't mention anything interesting? Now she looked genuinely confused. No, why would they? So she didn't know about the inheritance. Yet. But something had spooked her enough to attempt this performance. Ethan, you're being paranoid. Can't a wife just realize she loves her husband? A wife can, I agreed. But you filed for divorce this morning. The mask slipped completely. How did you... She caught herself, but too late. How did I know? Because Marla Chen called me an hour ago. Apparently, you visited her office at 9 a.m. demanding everything that pathetic loser owns. Her words, according to my lawyer. Savannah's face went through several expressions before settling on defiant anger. Fine, yes, I filed, but I changed my mind. People are allowed to change their minds. What changed it? I told you. Savannah. I sat down at the table, suddenly tired. We've been married for 4 years. In that time, you've called me ugly, stupid, worthless, embarrassing, and a charity case. You've mocked my job, my truck, my clothes, my face, and my family. Last night, you did it in front of 15 people for entertainment. Now you want me to believe you suddenly love me? She sat across from me, and for a moment, I saw something almost like genuine emotion in her eyes. Maybe I was scared. Of what? Of being ordinary. Of being the kind of person who ends up with... She gestured vaguely at me. I wanted more, Ethan. I wanted to be special. And I made you feel ordinary. Yes. At least it was honest. So what's different now? She leaned forward, taking my hands. I realized that wanting more doesn't mean I have to hurt you to get it. We could be partners, real partners. Partners in what? In building something better, together. I studied her face, still beautiful, still the face that had made me feel like the luckiest man alive when she'd agreed to marry me. But now I could see the calculation behind her eyes, the way she was watching my reactions, adjusting her approach. "There's someone else," I said quietly. She went very still. "What?" "Last night, the way you kept looking across the restaurant, the way someone kept looking back." I pulled my hands free. "Chase Larkin." Her face went white. "That's ridiculous." "Is it? Because he seemed pretty entertained by your little performance. And he made sure to come to say goodbye to me in the parking lot." "Ethan, how long?" She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her weighing options, calculating which lie might work best. Finally, she went with partial truth. 3 months, but it's not what you think. It's not serious." "What is it then?" "It's excitement, adventure, something different." She looked down at her hands. "You come home tired every day, covered in grease, talking about machines and production schedules. Chase takes me to gallery openings and wine tastings. He makes me feel sophisticated and beautiful. Yes, more beautiful than I do. Ethan, you never even notice when I get my hair done." She was right. I hadn't noticed, hadn't complimented her, hadn't made her feel desired in months, maybe years. I'd been so focused on working, on trying to provide, that I'd forgotten to actually live with her. "So why not just divorce me and be with him?" She laughed bitterly. "Because Chase doesn't want to marry me. He wants to play with me. And because—" She looked around the modest dining room. "Because I can't afford to leave you." There it was, the real truth. "You need my income. We need my income. This house, my car, my clothes. It all depends on both our salaries. Chase has money, but he's not offering to share it. He's offering to be my exciting secret while you pay my bills." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "So your plan was to have both?" "My plan was to figure things out. But after last night, after seeing how hurt you were—" She reached for my hands again. "I realized I don't want to lose you. Not really." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw the show last night. Your wife's got quite a mouth on her. Rosa." Rosa Martinez, the cleaning lady at the factory. She worked evenings, cleaning the offices and break rooms. I'd always been polite to her, unlike some of the management who treated her like she was invisible. "Who's texting you?" Savannah asked. "Work stuff." I put the phone away. "Savannah, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest." She nodded. "If I had money, real money, would that change how you feel about me?" Her eyes lit up before she could stop them. "What do you mean?" "I mean hypothetically. If I suddenly came into some money, would I still be ugly and worthless?" "Ethan, you're not worthless." "I never said—" "You said it last night, in front of 15 people." She looked genuinely pained. "I was drunk and angry and showing off. I didn't mean it. But you meant it enough to file for divorce this morning. That was before—" She stopped herself. "Before what?" "Before I realized what I'd be giving up." My phone buzzed again. "Rosa, can you come in early tomorrow? Need to show you something." I stood up. "I'm going to bed." "Ethan, wait, can we try? Really try?" I looked at her sitting there in her black dress, surrounded by candles and expensive takeout, offering me a chance to keep living the lie that she could love someone like me. "We'll see," I said. But as I climbed the stairs, I was already planning my visit to Rosa in the morning and thinking about Uncle Frank, who'd spent 12 years watching me get treated like dirt while sitting on the power to change everything. Tomorrow, I decided, things were going to start changing. Rosa was waiting for me in the factory parking lot at 6 a.m., clutching a thermos of coffee and looking nervous. At 62, she'd been cleaning office buildings for most of her adult life, supporting 3 kids and now helping with grandchildren. She was the kind of person who noticed everything and said nothing. Until now. "Mr. Callahan, thank you for coming early." Her accent was slight, her English careful and precise. "I wasn't sure I should call, but after what I heard about last night—" "What did you hear?" "My daughter Harper works at Romano's. She served your table." Rosa's face was grim. "She came home very upset. Said she'd never seen a woman be so cruel to her husband in public." Harper, the same name as Savannah's friend. "Your daughter's Harper Martinez?" "Harper Torino. She's married to Mick's son." Rosa smiled slightly. "Small world, no? Anyway, she told me what your wife did, and I decided you should know what I've seen here." She led me toward the main office building. The morning shift wouldn't start for another hour, so the parking lot was empty except for a few supervisor cars. I work Tuesday and Thursday nights, Rosa explained. Clean the offices, empty trash, vacuum. Most people don't even see me. But I see everything. She stopped beside the side entrance to the executive offices. 3 weeks ago, I was cleaning Mr. Morrison's office, the plant manager's office, when I heard voices outside, arguing voices. What kind of arguing? A man and woman. The woman was angry, saying something about making him pay and taking everything. The man was telling her to be patient, that they needed to be smart about it. My stomach tightened. Did you see them? Rosa nodded grimly. I looked out the window. Your wife and that pretty boy with the expensive car, they were standing right here, and she was, how do you say, very close to him. How close? Oh, close enough that I had to look away. This is a married woman, Mr. Callahan. I was raised to respect marriage. She pulled out her phone, an older model, but functional. I took pictures. The images were grainy, taken through an office window at night, but clear enough. Savannah pressed against Chase Larkin, his hands on her waist, her arms around his neck. The timestamp showed 3 weeks ago, right around when she'd started being extra cruel about my appearance and job. There's more, Rosa said quietly. Last Thursday night I saw them again. Same place, but this time they were talking about you specifically. I heard your name. What did they say? She said you were too stupid to figure it out, and that she could play the loving wife until the divorce was final. He laughed and said something about ugly men being grateful for scraps. The words hit like physical blows. I'd suspected the affair, but hearing about their mockery, their planning, their absolute contempt, it was worse than the public humiliation. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Rosa's eyes flashed with anger. Because my husband was a good man who worked hard and wasn't pretty like a movie star. And I loved him for 35 years until the day he died. What your wife is doing, it's wrong. You deserve better. I looked at the photos again, at Savannah's face pressed against Chase's neck, and felt something hard and cold crystallize in my chest. Rosa, can you send me these pictures? Already did, but Mr. Callahan, be careful. That woman, she's dangerous. And that man with her, he has money and connections. People like that, they don't like being crossed. As if summoned by her words, Chase's silver BMW pulled into the parking lot. He parked near the main entrance and got out, looking around like he owned the place, which, until yesterday, he might as well have. What's he doing here? I muttered. Rosa grabbed my arm. We should go inside. But Chase had seen us. He walked over with that confident swagger that came from never having to worry about consequences. Well, if it isn't the happy couple from last night. His smile was all teeth and no warmth. Rosa, right? You missed a spot in the men's room last week. Rosa's face flushed, but she kept quiet. What do you want, Chase? I asked him, just checking on my investment. He gestured at the factory building. Heard there might be some changes in management. Wanted to make sure my interests were protected. Your interests? I'm considering buying this place. Turn it into luxury condos. Much better use of prime real estate than whatever you people make in there. The casual dismissal, you people, was perfectly calculated. But what Chase didn't know was that he was talking to the owner of the building he wanted to demolish. Interesting, I said. Have you made an offer? Working on it? These things take time, especially when you're dealing with... He looked me up and down, limited understanding of business. Rosa was tugging on my sleeve, trying to get me to leave, but I wanted to hear more. What makes you think the owner would sell? Chase's smile widened. Let's just say I have inside information about some upcoming financial pressures. Sometimes people need to liquidate assets quickly. Financial pressures, like an expensive divorce. That's fascinating, I said. You seem to know a lot about the owner's situation. I make it my business to know these things. Information is power, Ethan. Something you'll learn when your wife takes half of everything you own. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Ethan, you might want to talk to Savannah about being more discreet. Small town, you know. People talk. After he drove away, Rosa and I stood in silence for a moment. He knows you know, she said finally. Yeah, and he doesn't care. No, he doesn't. She studied my face. But you're not scared. I thought about Uncle Frank's $25 million, about Marla Chen's aggressive divorce defense, about owning the building Chase wanted to destroy. No, I said. I'm not scared. Rosa smiled for the first time that morning. Good, because that man, he's used to people being scared of him. Time someone wasn't. As we walked in toward the building, my phone buzzed with a text from Savannah. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. I showed the message to Rosa, who snorted. Love! That woman wouldn't know love if it bit her on her skinny behind. Rosa, yes? If you see them here again, call me immediately, day or night. She nodded grimly. Count on it. Inside the factory, the morning shift was starting. Workers I'd known for years nodded hello, treating me the same as always. Just Ethan, the guy who worked hard and kept to himself. They had no idea their paychecks now depended on my decisions. But that was about to change. Because Chase was right about one thing. Information was power. And I was just getting started gathering information. By noon, I had 3 new allies and a plan that would have made Uncle Frank proud. The first ally was Paige Callahan, my cousin from Chicago. At 28, she ran social media campaigns for politicians and had what she called a gift for digital destruction. When I called her about my situation, her response was immediate. Finally, I've been waiting years for you to fight back. The second ally was Marla Chen, the divorce attorney who'd already proven her worth by recording Savannah's morning visit. Your wife, Marla had informed me, demanded I help her destroy that pathetic loser and take him for everything. I've represented some terrible people, Ethan, but rarely anyone quite so openly vindictive. The third ally was Mick, who'd spent his lunch break making phone calls to contacts throughout the city's business community. Chase Larkin, he reported, is leveraged up to his eyeballs. Daddy's trust fund is running dry, and he's been making some bad investments. Word is, he needs a big score soon or he's going to lose that penthouse. So he's planning to flip the factory, I said, with your wife's help. She gets half your assets in the divorce, sells them to him cheap, and they split the profit when he develops the land. We were sitting in Mick's office, eating sandwiches and planning what Paige had cheerfully called the complete social annihilation of 2 terrible people. The beautiful thing, Mick continued, is they have no idea you own the place. Chase has been calling the management company for weeks, trying to get information about the mysterious owner. They keep telling him it's tied up in probate. My phone rang. Paige calling from Chicago. Cousin, I've been busy. First, I need you to create social media accounts. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, the works. Use your real name, real photos. We're going to tell your story. I don't want to be on social media. Trust me. Second, I've been researching your wife's friends. Gemma Patterson runs an influencer marketing company that's currently under investigation for fraud. Harper Williams has been posting sponsored content without proper disclosures. That's FTC violations. These are not good people, and they have vulnerabilities. What kind of vulnerabilities? The kind that disappear when their online reputations get destroyed. Which brings me to point 3. I need you to document everything. Every conversation, every text, every interaction. We're building a case for the court of public opinion. After hanging up with Paige, I called Marla. I want to freeze all joint accounts, I told her. Already done. As of this morning, your wife has access to exactly what she had yesterday, which is the checking account with about $3,000. Everything else requires both signatures. What about the house? Still jointly owned, but I've filed papers claiming financial misconduct. She can live there, but she can't sell it or take out loans against it. How long before she figures out something's wrong? Probably tonight when her credit cards start getting declined. Perfect timing. Because tonight, Savannah was having dinner with Chase, and I was going to be watching. At 5 p.m., I drove to Chase's penthouse building and parked across the street. Paige had coached me on surveillance. Don't be obvious, but don't hide either. You're not doing anything wrong. At 6:15, Savannah's car pulled into the valet area. She'd dressed for seduction. Tight red dress, heels, hair, and makeup perfect. She kissed Chase in full view of the street, long and passionate, like a woman who'd never been married to anyone else. I took pictures, lots of pictures. They went to Meridian, the most expensive restaurant in the city. I followed and got a table across the room, close enough to see but far enough to avoid notice. Chase ordered a bottle of wine that cost more than most people's car payments. That's when Savannah's card got declined. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see her face go from confusion to embarrassment to anger. She pulled out another card. Also declined. Chase looked annoyed as he handed over his own card, and they had what appeared to be a heated, whispered argument. My phone buzzed. A text from Savannah. Something's wrong with our accounts. Cards aren't working. Call the bank. I didn't respond. 20 minutes later, another text. Ethan, this is serious. Call me. Then, where are you? Finally, I know you're getting these messages. This isn't funny. Chase and Savannah left the restaurant early, their romantic evening clearly ruined. I followed them back to his building and watched them argue in the parking garage. Even from a distance, I could see Savannah gesturing wildly, while Chase looked increasingly uncomfortable. My phone rang. Ethan, what the heck did you do? Savannah's voice was pure fury. I'm protecting our assets during divorce proceedings. It's standard practice. Divorce proceedings, I withdrew the filing. Actually, you didn't. I checked with the court. You filed, but you never formally withdrew. The case is still active. Silence, then. Fine, I'll withdraw it tomorrow. Too late. I filed my own papers this afternoon, citing adultery and financial misconduct. More silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different, calculating instead of angry. What do you want, Ethan? I want you to come home so we can discuss this like adults. I'm having dinner with a friend. I can see that. Meridian has excellent lighting for photographs. I heard her sharp intake of breath. You're watching me? I'm documenting the adultery you're committing in public for the divorce proceedings you initiated. You son of a witch. Come home, Savannah. We need to talk. She hung up. Through my car window, I watched her storm back into Chase's building. But 20 minutes later, she came back out alone, got in her car, and drove toward our house. I beat her there by 10 minutes, just enough time to set up the recording app Paige had recommended. When Savannah burst through the door, I was sitting calmly at the kitchen table. You bastard, she snarled. You sneaky, pathetic bastard. How dare you spy on me? I'm not spying. I'm gathering evidence for our divorce. Our divorce? I changed my mind about the divorce, but I didn't. She stared at me like I'd grown horns. What? I want a divorce, Savannah. I want you out of my life. You can't divorce me. You need me. Do I? Yes, you're nothing without me. You're an ugly factory worker who drives a piece of crap truck and lives in a house that's falling apart. I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. I let her words hang in the air, making sure the recording app captured every syllable. Is that really what you think? It's what I know. And when we get divorced, I'm taking half of everything, including this house. So you can play your little games with the bank accounts, but in the end, I'm still going to get what's mine. What makes you think you deserve half of anything? She laughed, but there was hysteria in it. Because I've put up with you for 4 years. Do you know what it's like being married to someone who embarrasses me everywhere we go? Do you know how hard it is to pretend I'm attracted to... She gestured at me with disgust. To what? To someone who looks like you. I nodded slowly. So you've been doing me a favor? Staying married to someone so ugly and worthless? Yes. And now you want to be compensated for that sacrifice? Absolutely, I do. I stood up and walked to the kitchen counter, where I'd left a folder. Inside were printouts of Rose's photos, screenshots of Savannah's location data from our shared phone plan, and credit card records showing expensive dinners and hotel charges. Savannah, I need to show you something. She grabbed the folder and flipped through it, her face going pale as she realized what she was looking at. You've been having an affair with Chase Larkin for 3 months, I said calmly. You've been planning to divorce me and sell our assets to him at below market value. You've been stealing money from our joint accounts to pay for your dates with him. And you've been doing all of this while calling me ugly and worthless. She looked up from the photos, and for the first time since I'd known her, Savannah looked genuinely afraid. Ethan, I can explain. No need, I understand completely. You found someone you thought was better than me, and you decided to trade up. The only problem is, you got greedy. Instead of just leaving, you wanted to humiliate me and steal from me too. It's not stealing, it's community property. Not anymore. I pulled out my phone and showed her the recording app. Everything you just said is now evidence, including your admission that you've been pretending to be attracted to me for 4 years and that you consider our marriage a sacrifice worthy of compensation. Her face went from pale to red. You recorded me? In our own house? It's legal in this state. Single-party consent. She threw the folder at me, photos scattering across the kitchen floor. You think you're so smart? You think you've won something? But you're still the same ugly loser you were yesterday, and I'm still the best thing that ever happened to you. Maybe, I said, but I'm the ugly loser who's about to own everything, and you're the beautiful woman who's about to have nothing. She stared at me, and I could see her mind working, trying to figure out what had changed, why I was so confident. There's something you're not telling me, she said slowly. There are a lot of things I'm not telling you, but you'll find out soon enough. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. This isn't over, Ethan. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Actually, I called after her, I think I do. After she left, I sat in the quiet kitchen looking at the scattered photos of my wife with another man. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt completely at peace. My phone buzzed, a text from Paige. How did it go? Phase 1 complete, I typed back. Excellent. Ready for Phase 2? I looked around the house that Savannah had always hated, thought about the factory I now owned, and considered the $25 million that would let me rewrite the rules of my entire life. Bring it on.